so I appreciate that, and all of us do. And we got our electronic fuel island in last year under Daryl's leadership, and are working on getting that new jet fuel truck. We've also had difficulties with snow plows, trucks, mowers, and other equipment. The airport tends to get the hand-me-downs of all the departments that don't want the equipment anymore, and so you have to put it into the hands of someone who can be a good mechanic. The stuff has to go into service all the time, and we have issues with all the equipment from time to time, which Daryl can attest to because we hear about it monthly at the airport commission meetings. Another highlight, Daryl's required to host 3 public events per year. During this year, he doubled that number, and there were 6. 6 that we came up with. There may have been more. So the Airport Commission discussed this compliance review at our meeting on July 19th, and we are recommending to you an increase in 5% of the base service fee for Daryl. And just for a point of reference, his base service fee for 2015-16 was $70,021.20 per year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm sure the 2 gentlemen with me would be as well.
Mayor.
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. First off, Shelley, you're going to be greatly missed. Your contributions to Freeport are noticed, and I appreciate everything you've done for the city, and I'm sure you will be back. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
wish you the best.
I'll be here for the next 2 meetings.
I know
so-
you will, but just in case I forget.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The 5% increase, could you give me some historical points of reference? What has it been over the last 5 years? Has it been 5% every year? And a follow-up to my question would be, is the vote on the commission, was it a unanimous vote, or what did that look like?
I don't have all the history. Daryl might know better than I. Last year, it was a 5% that was passed, but then I wasn't involved in the airport before that. I guess I wasn't no, I'm sorry, last year you had a brand-new contract, so it was a different situation. In 2014, it was a 5% increase. The vote was unanimous. You know farther back than that, Daryl?
It was changed. Aircraft owners who came to Freeport to practice, not to Rockford, not to Dubuque, to Freeport, because they're treated well. That's marketing. Daryl does that. We actually had an emergency landing here Monday night of a vintage pre-World War II bomber. And where was Daryl? At home? No, he was at the airport because he knew it was Oshkosh week and he was there to provide services. You know, that we had, 2 bombers and a P-47 fighter out there, all collectible, all multi-million-dollar airplanes. And Daryl managed to get the bomber that lost an engine in the hangar and the new maintenance hangar to make it work. But he was there. And it's that marketing and promoting that pushes Freeport. And it was felt by the commission that for $3,500, in spite of the fact it was 5%, that he has invested that and should be entitled to it. That's the reasoning behind the percentage.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Alderperson Miller.
I don't doubt that at all. I'm sure his job is well above 5%. What I struggle with is we just spent an hour debating a couple of dollars, and as you can see, Alderman McClanathan spent quite a bit of time contemplating
Back in that, it was
percent difference there. So I just struggle with not giving our own employees, and a contractor gets 5%. So it's not about his ability.
we had the same problem.
Mayor?
Further discussion, Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. Mr. Staben, when you guys rationalized the max at 5% and the performance review came in at 3.6% in 2015 and 4.1, my thought would be is if the performance review came in at 4.1, it should be a 4.1% increase and 3.6% increase. What is the rationale or the threshold as to what is acceptable and unacceptable as far as, because we go off a scoring system that was produced by somebody. It wasn't by the council, at least it wasn't by this council. So walk me through the thought process on that when we see a 3.6 and a 4.1, but we give out a max increase.
We had no correlation. The rating from 0 to 5 was set up by someone, had no relationship to the 5% increase, to my knowledge, never has. We're looking at performance, reasonable performance. We didn't give him, we were very pleased with his performance. Did he get a 5 rating? No, he didn't. He got an effective rating. But then again, we looked at the dollar amount. $3,500. The 5% was not the definitive criteria. It's a matter of that 5% relates to $3,500. And he lost $2,000 on the open house that he provided the food on. He's lost money to promote the airport. And we look at that and say, okay, 5% is a percentage that relates to specific dollars. And he has invested those dollars out of his pocket to make the airport a better place. And I think that's one of the selling factors on the 5% is the fact that he's invested his money to make the airport better. But the rating of 5 and the 5%, to my knowledge, had no correlation.
It isn't. The way that the contract is written is that he has to get at least a satisfactory, which would be a 3, in order to earn up to 5. So it doesn't say if he gets a 3, he gets 3%. If he gets a 4, he gets 4%. If he gets 5, he gets 5%. That's not the way the contract reads. And you have to understand too, some of the things that we rate him on are really a yes, no. Do we have an operating Unicom system?
To a contractor, but then again, the men and women that serve with the city of Freeport, they're fighting for a 1% or a 2%. So while I appreciate Mr. Staben's thoughts that it's only $3,500, even though the word only should never be before taxpayer money, but that's okay. But explain to me how that looks. It just doesn't seem like in line with logic.
You've asked me for a rationale. First of all, the decision on this is ultimately up to the council, but most of the men and women, by the way, that work for the city of Freeport, we do provide their clothing allowance. In fact, in the contract, we would like to just simply reimburse for cost, and they, no, I'd like the full amount of what I'm allowed. So we do provide a lot of equipment, and we do provide uniforms. We provide a lot of things for the people who work for the city. The distinguishing factor for this contract is this. I'm not aware of another situation in the city where we have contracted for a outside contractor to come in and run a facility. And we provide him with a base fee, and everything else that happens from then is up to him. We want him to promote the airport. He has to do that in his funds. We want him to provide maintenance functions. He does that with his funds. We want him to have reasonable staffing for the airport. He does that with his funds. So all of the risk that is incumbent upon the operation of the airport falls on the contractor. So when he gets $3,500 additional in his contract, as has been indicated in the testimony here, that doesn't take into account he's had gains and losses in the events that he is asked to sponsor per the contract. So I think it is significantly different when you're dealing with an airport to look at this in a different way than we would look at an employee. He's not an employee. He's not getting a 5% increase in his salary. He's getting a 5% increase for his operation. And in this case, the Airport Commission has apparently taken into account the substantial obstacles that he has faced, and yet he has succeeded in doing all the things that he's been asked to do under the contract. So therein, to me, is the distinction between this contract and something that we're doing with the city.
May I comment?
Mr. Staben?
One thing that I forgot, you're talking about the water bill and the consumer price index, which is roughly 5%. We're asking to give him to buy the materials, to buy the parts, to fix the mowers, the equivalent of the consumer price index. So in spite of all the other grand things I said, the one thing I keep forgetting is the fact that all of his
events that he put on out there, including at your request when the Beach Nuts were out there to talk to them and welcome to the city. And I'll tell you what, talking to all the pilots from outside of the area and stuff, I've heard nothing but positive things about the airport and about what Darrell does out there. He's known and he works very hard for the airport. And if to keep him there and keep him moving, this 5% increase in his operating budget, I'm all in favor for it because there's a lot of work yet to be done out there. And I think if he continues the way he is and gets some of the things he's working on now fall into place, I think you're gonna see a lot of improvements out there at that airport. So I am in favor of giving it to him.
Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, is there a motion?
So move.
I assume your motion is to approve the recommendation of the Airport Commission.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second. And Tom would say, don't let it die for a second.
It's moved by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman McClanathan. Is there any other discussion? Any final comments? If there is no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the motion to approve the airport's recommendation for a 5% increase in the overall contract level.
Miller,
No.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Keister,
Aye.
Chesney,
No.
Clem,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
I'm sorry, Alderman Ross, I didn't hear your vote.
I didn't say anything yet.
All right.
No.
Okay. 5 yes and 3 no. That passes.
Okay, recommendation is approved. We now go to item 8, which is first reading of ordinance 2016-43. Thank you to the Airport Commission. Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance 2016-43 for the first time?
This is the first reading of ordinance.
To do with it throughout all these many years. They've used it for their operations and kept it running and are at the point where they would like to just have it transferred to them. I believe it stems back to the way the transportation programs were in the late 80s. So what this ordinance does is considers this surplus property to the city. The city really has no need for this bus. Malcolm Eaton does. And it is possible under federal rules, we double check to be able to dispose of a bus in this fashion. One thing we did discover this morning is that the bus was longer than we thought, and when the bus is longer, it makes it worth a little bit more money. So I would only note that we could, if the council chose to amend this ordinance on its face, say greater than $500 in the third whereas clause, and strike clause 6, which is referencing estimated values under $500. But the intention of this is to have the nonprofit organization take over this bus, which they have essentially held for all these years.
Further questions?
Mayor,
Alderperson Bradshaw.
this may be a really silly question, but a private citizen can donate vehicles and get a tax write-off. Does the city have any advantage to just giving this vehicle away?
We don't have a tax write-off to the federal government because we're a not-for-profit.
Well, I was just thinking, if you get rid of a junk title, is there any benefit to doing this that you can see?
The only benefit to us is a practical one. There's no advantage to the city to carrying title to a vehicle and its age and its value compared to an asset that has considerable value left in it.
Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
I would move to approve ordinance 43 pending any adjustment needed to the value in it.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's moved by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderperson Bradshaw to approve the ordinance. Alderman McClanathan, did you have a comment?
Just,
Go ahead.
okay. Do we need to make any change to the valuation? I mean, we're
I
kind
don't
of
think
guessing,
so.
aren't
I
we?
mean,
Okay.
frankly, let's say that it's worth $600 versus $500. Does it really make a difference?
I
What we
wouldn't
know
think so.
is we don't have a bus that is worth $5,000.
Right.
Mayor?
Reference-
Alderman Chesney.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, I
Second.
appreciate that. Alderman Chesney makes a motion to suspend the rules, and it's
Second.
seconded by Alderperson Miller.
Mr. Mayor,
I don't think she ever said anything.
Yes.
We
Alderman
went,
Clem.
we went from point A to point D there. I know the first vote is on the, whether to suspend the rules or not, but I'd just like to make the comment that I was interim director of Malcolm Eaton for a period of time, and I would guarantee you you'd like to get rid of this bus and you wouldn't want it back. So, it is a good move to give it to them, and it has been on the rolls of the transportation thing for all these years. So thank you for
Alderman
doing it.
Clem, I would take it from your comment and your firsthand knowledge that this bus is not bound to become a classic 50 years from now at some auto show.
Demolition derby material.
There's a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration, which is non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. I think on the safe side, we'll take a roll call on that. So, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? This is only on the motion to suspend for immediate consideration.
Miller? Aye. Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
McConaughey?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
That passes 8-0.
Okay, a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration having been approved. Ordinance 2016-43 as presented is now before the council. Is there any final discussion or debate? Seeing no further discussion or debate, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the final passage of ordinance 2016-43.
Miller? Aye. Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
McConaughey?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
That passes 8-0.
Thank you. We now move to item 9 under ordinances first reading. This is ordinance 2016-44. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance into the record?
The first reading of ordinance 2016-44, an ordinance to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of the city of Freeport, Illinois.
Okay. Attorney Phillips, since you're here, this is a housekeeping ordinance, but it's a significant one. Would you please explain briefly what we're doing?
The codification company for the city requires us to pass them an ordinance to authorize them to codify and appoint and place the ordinances that the council has passed over the last several periods of months, and to place them inside the codified ordinances for the city of Freeport. This is the point of this ordinance, to grant such authority.
Hey, is there any questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Clem.
motion to move it forward?
Second.
It is moved by Alderman Clem. Was it seconded by Alderman Keister? Okay. To approve ordinance 2016-44.
Mayor,
Alderman Chesney.
is there a benefit to speeding this up?
Will of the council, it's housekeeping. If you'd like to do so, that's fine. We can just do it faster.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration that has been made by Alderman Chesney, seconded by Alderman Busker. That motion is non-debatable. It requires an extraordinary majority. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Ordinance 2016-44 is before the council for passage. Is there any final comments, questions, or discussion?
Mayor?
Alderperson Miller.
I know this is just a housekeeping thing, but my question is about the American Legal Publishing. I know we had talked about last year that we would look to see if we could find anybody to do the publishing that was a little less expensive. Is this locking us into the American Legal Publishing again without getting outside amounts to do that publishing, or is it just a housekeeping issue?
It's just a housekeeping issue. That doesn't mean that we can't go someplace else in the future.
Okay.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
The latest technology on light bars. And that grand total would be $80,573.14. And if you look on that other spreadsheet.
Easter.
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the bid for the Baca Group, the amount of $63,305.77 for 3 pursuit vehicles.
Second.
It's moved by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman Clem, to accept the low bid from Bacher pursuant to the amount stated. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor?
I'm sorry. Was there other discussion, Alderperson Miller?
Yeah, Chief, you're asking for an approval of roughly 80,000. How much was budgeted?
82.5.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Busker?
Yes, Chief, I see you went with the front-wheel drives. I noticed in here you got a couple different bids for all-wheel drive. Is that something that would you find not necessary in town here, or is that something you'd maybe like to see us head towards in the future? Or?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I'd like to segue into, this is probably going to be the last year for the Chevy Impalas for the police package state bid. This year, and that's why I included that the state bid was awarded for the 2016 Ford Interceptor sedan. That's an all-wheel drive sedan. That would be an acceptable vehicle, but it was a little higher, 25,580 without any kind of trade-in. So I don't know. I can only anticipate what that's going to be next year. What helps us with the Chargers are really kind of cool to look at, and they're pretty nice. I like those. And I think I would look really good in one of those, and so is a lot of my men and women. But the problem with getting some different squads is the Impalas made so much more sense why they were available, because all of our inserts
Decided to put that in the schedule, I'd appreciate it.
Somebody went through there a little fast, so next morning I came up Stevenson Street and there were two officers sitting there with cars, so. But thank you, but it does become a racetrack out there, and, you know, you guys know that, so I appreciate the extra effort.
Thank you.
Alderman Chesney?
Thank you. Chief, I don't know if you're familiar with Freeport buy-sell swap. Obviously, we all know about Craigslist, but, you know, it's common practice in many communities that, you know, trade, you know, is of different various garage sale type items throughout the city. And one thing Sterling was doing is they had a trade safe zone that would be that was placed at their police department, so people could go to if, you know, they didn't feel quite, you know, comfortable with maybe the communication that was going on, because, you know, a lot of people are very vulnerable. What would be your feedback if we were to establish some type of trade zone to where they could show up, you know, in the back part of the police parking lot or something like that, to where there would be another set of eyes to where people could properly, because they're going to do it. The question is, are they doing it safely?
Yes, thank you for asking. I think that's a great question. It's a good idea. I'm not generally a part of that, but I know there's a lot of folks that do. So we are going to create a safe trade zone, and we're going to use our gazebo for that particular area. I'm in the process. What I want to do before I kick that off and do a press release, I want to get a camera mounted so that we'll have 24-hour surveillance in that, and then just kind of kick that off on a regular press release so we can educate the public. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Chief.
Anything else for the police department?
For a passage of the state budget, we also have received the first round of $406,000 in grant money. So I've done the quarterly reports for the grant. As soon as I showed the efficiency levels, we will receive not only that grant, but an additional grant for $126,000 from the Illinois Clean Energy Foundation. So we're well on our way with that program. I expect actual installation probably to start maybe the first week of September or so. It's entirely too hot in that building to even do it. It's 140 to 150 degrees in those buildings today, or in the last weeks while these blowers are running. So we actually got to wait for it to cool down before we can even attempt installation of this. So efficiencies are on the horizon.
Questions from the council.
Mayor.
Director Glendenning, I know that you have been involved in some enforcement issues with a detention pond along Sioux Drive. Without getting into the litigation particulars, is there any information you feel comfortable sharing with the council?
Just basically that review of the property is done by not only myself, but local agencies to include EPA, and we'll be pursuing construction permits and getting that put back into order.
Questions in the council?
Mayor.
Alderman Keister.
Yes, Mr. Glendenning, two quick questions for you. First of all, on Lincoln Boulevard, there seems to be a small stream flowing down there from between Locust, or between Pine and West Street, I believe, on the north side. Can you elaborate on that?
Not aware of that. There's lots of things going on with multiple areas of construction and flushing and going there, so it may be an issue, so I'll take note of it and we'll look into it.
It seems to be coming out of the ground, and there was a barricade there. That's why I thought maybe you were aware of it.
Okay, no.
Okay, and follow-up, Mayor?
Alderman Keister.
Yeah, follow-up question on Cedar, in front of 1718 Cedar. There's a indentation in the road that the resident said your people came over and took a look at it and said it was over his sewer pipe and they were gonna come back and fix it. Do you know anything about that?
I know they're behind right now. We have a couple other collapses and sinkholes that we're working in there, so that's on our long list of things to do right at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
thank you. Director Glendenning, just as both personally and then for the department as a whole, thank you personally for some of your involvements in various things with the ward, obviously Sioux Drive, as well as coming to the Neighborhood Watch meeting, and for the work that the department's doing across the city. Well, obviously, sometimes it can be frustrating in regards to the torn up roads and all that stuff. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback in regards to the product that's going on. So just a general thanks to you individually for the work being done and also to the department.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you, Director. I think it goes without saying the items that need to be addressed on Sioux Drive. You have my personal full support on this to get this corrected as quickly as possible. The feedback that I have gotten obviously is not positive. So if you could provide us updates to the extent possible, that would be very helpful, and I'm sure Alderman McClanathan would appreciate that as well. So.
Very good. We just need to be patient for the first 30 days for the process to begin.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to finance.
Thank you, Mayor. Monday, we're going to have the audit start on Monday. So I spoke with the lead auditor and about what I need to do, what I need to provide. So there's nothing that I need to send ahead of time. So on Monday morning when they come in, so I will have material ready for them to start working. While I have a lot of work to be done, so at least for the first 2 days, they will have enough material to do whatever they need to work on. And so far, we have been doing a lot of cleanup, so I cannot guarantee what the outcome's going to be, but at least the material will be there. We have done a lot of cleaning up. What I'm doing, at the same time we're working on the audit, I'm working moving forward. I'm making adjustment to the appropriation. I will be going to bring that forward in the next maybe few weeks. There's no dollar amount, it's just accounts, numbers that we need to fix to make the process very smooth. So, and I was trying to get the report ready for tonight. I printed
The momentum and get some further properties registered, and we'd like to continue that each month going forward. So just as Director Dole provides a summary of work that his crews have completed, I'd like to provide a summary of previous month's vacant properties that have been registered and actions that have taken place on those to comply with that ordinance.
Mayor?
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, as it relates, that was actually on my list of things to bring up to you tonight. Several months ago, I brought up the vacant properties, and as you know, this was passed nearly 2 years ago, and I think as of 6 months ago or 3 months ago, there was 3 or 4 properties registered, so we have a lot of work to do. What's your strategy as it relates to, are you going into the major corridors? I mean, the one that jumps out is on West and South Street, the former Eagles. I mean, that's just such an eyesore and should have been taken care of a long time ago, and we've let it go. So what's the strategy as we go in to implement this so we can understand, what we have, where are the issues, where are the rooms for improvement? What's that look like?
Director Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. would like to try to keep it balanced between commercial properties and residential properties, while there are many of both. The ordinance is written to address both of those, and the fact that your goal is to get a plan, a repair plan out of the owner of record. That being said, there are some properties we're aware of where the owner of record is deceased. We'd like to get those done first. Those, granted, are lower hanging fruit, but knowing about them now will help us figure out how to deal with them, since nobody appears to be coming for those problems. Make it work.
Follow up, Mayor.
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. As it relates to the vacant building ordinance, but also more specifically the vacant properties, what type of list has already been generated? I mean, clearly, you know, you can go through fairly quickly and just at first glance get an idea where people are living and who's in there, and I would imagine commercial would be a little bit easier than residential. But I guess my first question is has a list at all been generated? And if so, has the priorities have you rolled out the first phase of this within that list?
Director Mills?
So I believe when passed, I think, and probably even before passage of this ordinance, there were lists made of vacant properties. Since that time, this would have been in 2014, I would say there's been 50 to 60 demolitions, so those lists would probably need reconciled with those. Obviously, new vacancies could occur as well. But what we'd like to do is, frankly, start with some of the ones that are smacking us in the face. As you look at this list, you'll notice there are a couple corridor properties, downtown properties, things that are blatantly obvious in our community. So when we can get those addressed on the right path, the repair plan with somebody being accountable, essentially, we're going to continue branching out deeper and deeper. You know, the ones that, frankly, that I would see us doing last would be the ones that are buttoned up and nicely maintained, and you know, wouldn't take more than a glance. The other ones that have significant issues, we'd like to get those in the right direction now. Would it be all right if because I have the city property one, I could cross-reference it for you guys, since I'll have them side by side, and then, would that work? Okay, sure.
Anything else? Public Works?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have to speak about tonight is we will be going out for bids for leaf disposal. That's just right around the corner by the time we get it wrapped up. So they're ran through Corporation Council for the language for the advertisement should be going out. I'll open the bids on the 23rd of August, and I should be bringing that to council for review and approval, I think, in the first week of September.
Questions of council?
Mayor?
Alderman Keister.
Yeah, Director Droll, I don't know if you're the one I talked to about this or not, but Cedar Street, just off of South Street out there, I got a call from a constituent who stopped by before the meeting tonight, and that's getting in really, really bad shape as far as a lot of potholes and a lot of damage to the road. Do you have any idea when that is slated to have any work done on it?
Well, if there's potholes, Alderman Keister, we can get right out there and fix the potholes, and I'm happy to take a further review of the whole street to see if there's any other, bigger pavement that we can repair, but potholes we'll address immediately.
Okay, I appreciate that, because there is a sinkhole that I know Mr. Glendenning's people looked at and they're going to fix. But if you get a chance, I'd like you to take a look at that road and see if anything can be done about it, because it's getting in some really big
Properties that we have, both county, city, and trustee owned, we'd be able to come up with a solution that would save $40,000. I mean, do we have any solution outside of largely a single source bid with a 30% increase?
Director Dole.
I don't have a plan to entice other bidders. We do advertise and hope that other folks see the ad and ask the questions. The problem we face is that as we bring leaves out to wherever it is, somebody has to be there to take care of that, and it's an ongoing process like the facility we use currently. He was inspected by the EPA. He got permits based on the size of his acreage and a time frame to dispose of them throughout the acreage. So nothing is, they're not all the same scenarios for any bidder, but it would be up to them to look into what the rules may be that, would apply to their parcel.
Well, in addition, the county doesn't do leaf pickup.
No, they don't. I doubt if they'd have a facility if they want to bid on it, but when we start collecting leaves, we have to have a site that is permitted with an all-weather road ready to go. I hope that we do get multiple bids this year. I really do, but I don't know how to encourage anyone to do that.
Mayor?
Alderman Chesney.
Well, because the county's been looking for a place to put, their wood and miscellaneous items for the county, and I know that there's a number of board members that have worked on that, specifically those that are in the landscaping business, even at a cost. So I wasn't inferring that, they do leaf pickup in Orangeville, but what I was saying is that clearly Stevenson County has more land than we do, right? And there might be a lot of land that would be a potential long-term solution. So it might be something to look at as far as what that would be down the road. But, $40,000 is quite costly, especially with the increase. So I don't think that was inflation. While we have been talking about inflation, I don't think that was one that was, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Clem.
Alderman Chesney, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to say something before. The one thing that really gets complicated in that, I had one of these guys that came to me and said, hey, I've got a friend that really wants to bid that, so on and so forth. And about the first time you grab up the packet and find out all the legal mumbo jumbo and everything else in it and the EPA stuff, it does become a different animal. But I really do also encourage, if there's anything at all we can do it. But it is more of a complicated process than one first thinks of right off the bat. Because this guy, oh yeah, I'll get this guy to do it, and come bid time, he wasn't around, so.
Anything else for Public Works? Library?
Mostly downtown merchants and prizes provided by the Library Foundation. The foundation also allowed us to purchase books that were given away to all of the folks who registered for the program. I'll say that again. This was a program that was supported by the Library Foundation, which gives us a lot of wonderful sort of icing on the cake programs at the library. And I don't really think of summer reading as icing on the cake, given what so many studies have shown about its importance for children retaining their reading level over the summer. But the foundation furthermore believes that reading should be fun for adults as well, and that's why they're so generous with the program. Thank you.
Any questions in the council?
Thank you.
Thank you. There are three quick things from my office. First, thank you to the council for approving the ordinance on cost of living. Appreciative of the fact that it's remembered that each year the council will have to sign off on this. What is truly concerning to me is that we have fallen far behind in our maintenance of the system. Let's just put the capital projects aside. We need to take care of first things first. The council, I think, did a very noble thing tonight. I am not at all unaware of the pressure that we feel from the public. I get it too. I think sometimes we have to just simply bite the bullet and say we got to do the right thing. And the right thing here is going to save us money. And water and sanitary sewer that is functional and updated is of crucial importance to them. And that we need to have a system that is equal to the community that we all want to live in. So we didn't take a big step tonight, but I do think that we took an important step tonight. So thank you. Second, I haven't had any inquiries from the council about police negotiations, but I do want to apprise you that we're about to commence the police negotiations. Dates are being set in August, so we'll start to venture down that path as well. There is a further meeting that has been held between our attorney and the representative of the fire union, and so that may not be immediately going to arbitration as had been directed originally. They asked for a further consultation, kind of one-on-one. I don't know whether to take that as an encouraging sign or not, but it we'll know shortly. Finally, I think all of us appreciated the work of our previous grant coordinator, Nick Chupin. The staff has completed the extensive interview process. There were, I believe, 4 major candidates that were interviewed from a larger pool. There is an offer extended, which has been accepted by an experienced grant coordinator who will be starting the 3rd week in August. Her credentials, she's been doing grants for decades. I think she's very competent. I think she'll be very good. I think she'll be able to step in and start immediately to not only create new grants, but to administer the ones we have. We will be coming to the council with a proposal to mirror the audit report and shift the direct responsibility of that position to the finance department. Questions? Not, thank you. Now come to council business. Alderperson Miller.
Nothing, thank you.
Alderman Busker. Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I want to thank the Chief of Police for the Speedwagon on Greenfield and also the requested police presence that we've seen. A lot of you know there's been a lot of heavy construction on Stevenson, so people are taking Greenfield as the bypass. So we've had a huge increase in traffic up and down the street. A lot of cars go speeding along until they hit the curve, see that Speedwagon, they slam on their brakes. And they hit the gas pedal again, they start up the hill, and then they see the police car and they slam on their brakes. Why do I know this? My husband and I walk the neighborhood every single day, and we saw this several times. Also, due to the increase in heavy traffic, and I mean by heavy vehicles, semis, rock-laden dump trucks, Greenfield is potholing out. We have a couple of big potholes already forming between, I think it was Indian Springs and Harrison, and they don't look huge, but we saw an SUV coming along today. A young lady was driving it, and she hit him, and her vehicle jumped up in the air as she hit the second one. There's Sean Gallagher, who's not here this evening. We had a huge town hall meeting right after our neighborhood watch meeting, and it was standing room only at the beginning. I mean, thanks to Schwartz Funeral Home and the young man that was working there that evening, they kept pulling out extra chairs and extra chairs and extra chairs. And it was just a little overwhelming. I didn't do a head count, but it got awfully hot in there, and it's a big room as it is. Anyhow, Tom, I want to thank you for that. We had a lot of good public participation, a lot of questions. I had several people come up to me and tell me they didn't realize how inexpensive our rates were compared to other communities, that we were well more than 30% under the average for our state of Illinois. And several people that came up to me and told me about working in third world countries and how water is a treasured commodity. It's very, very high priced in other worlds, in other countries other than the United States. We are extremely spoiled. We are extremely privileged here to think that the water is just always going to taste good as it comes out of the tap. And we pay such a small amount for this commodity compared to other countries. It's kind of ridiculous. That's my soapbox for tonight. Sorry about that. I think I thanked everybody I needed to. We had one other issue regarding a chain link fence, Logan's. On the south side of Logan's, they had requested to know who the ownership of the chain link fence was between Logan's Bar and Grill and the old police, fire department. Thank you. Building there, the one that we had put up for sale. And I studied the fence, and it is slanted away from the firehouse. The top portion is, which is an old barbed wire structure. So I assume that it is owned by the fire department and the city of Freeport. And it was just kind of I asked why they wanted to know the ownership. It's just that they repeatedly clean up tons and tons of garbage along there. And they didn't even know if it was their fence, and well, since they actually leased the property, they don't own it, they were looking for ownership. So hopefully the city can step forward a little bit with maintenance of that area, as it is quite an eyesore in between the times they clean it up. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Alderman Keister.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick things. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, at your request, due to your scheduling, I went out and greeted the Beach Nuts at the airport. We could go last Friday. They come here because they like the facility, and the location of Freeport is ideal for what they do, because being a rural community, as long as they keep to the north, south, and west, they don't have any problem with any restricted airspace or anything with Rockford, and they can do their formation flying practices here before they go over, and they do several flybys here, then they go over to Rockford, do some flybys over there. And then by Sunday, they're on their way up to Oshkosh, where they also do some flybys with their formation. Now, just a quick explanation of what the Beach Nuts are. They are Beechcraft aircraft owners that have gotten together, gotten the training, and done formation flying. They don't do aerobatics as you would think of them in air shows and stuff. But it's pretty much like 5 or 6 aircraft together forming certain figures and stuff in the air and flying past. So they had nothing but very good things to say about Freeport, and they're very much looking forward to coming back here next year and doing their practice before Oshkosh, and they're hoping that they're going to have more aircraft as well. And they have been talking to other similar type groups as themselves to try and get them to start also using Freeport as a training base or a hop-off point to go up to Oshkosh. So I'm hoping that we're going to see more activity out there in that manner. And the second thing is, at the request of the council, and a monthly report on what's going on with the Sky Concert. Don't have a lot to report right now. We had our first meeting, our first meeting last Friday. The 3 of the regular people were there, plus Alderman Clem was there and made some very good suggestions, and I appreciate that. We are trying to get everything together as far as when we're going to have it and where we're going to have it. We have looked at some alternative locations for it, because of the fact with the fair the way it is next year, we don't know if we're going to be able to have it on the 4th of July, because the 4th of July is on Tuesday and the fair opens Thursday. So that may not be possible. We may have to have it prior to the 4th of July again, because we've looked and we have not found any location in Freeport that would suit. Either there's a problem with enough space, or there's problems with being able to meet the regulations for safety zones for the fireworks through the fire department. So we're kind of going to be stuck with the fairgrounds, I think, so we may have to alter the date one more year. We are starting our fundraising for next year. You will see Uncle Sam down at the cruise night this year. He will be selling the raffle tickets, I understand, or so I've been told, which a portion of it is going to be going to the Sky Concert. What we really, really need is some more help and some more volunteers. 4 people just can't do all of it themselves. So if there's anybody out there, or you know anybody that would like to be involved in this, please have them contact me so we can move forward with this. Our intent, hopefully, is to have a half-a-day celebration next year and open the gates at noon, rather than open the gates at 5 o'clock, to be able to have entertainment, food, and other things out there for this. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions about it. I'll have another report next month for you.
Thank you. Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. Just one, I probably should have brought this up to you, Fire Chief, but I did forget. On this present budget that we did pass, the South Street Fire Station was in there for, I think we had $100,000 that we anticipated in revenue. It's kind of fallen off the radar as far as, remember that we did the bid, and then we also were working on the appraisal, and then there was discussions as to, should we do a full-blown appraisal? Were we going to incorporate it in the floodplain? How is that all going to look? And that's been several months. So if we could pick that back up so we can realize that revenue within this fiscal year, I think that would be helpful. So if we could make that a priority down the road, that'd be good.
The biggest problem, Alderman Chesney, is a determination of the floodplain issue. And we actually had a special study done just simply to determine if we could adjust that. It makes a difference in evaluation whether it can be removed from the floodplain. The answer to that is negative. At least that's the tentative answer. So we are now asking for the final appraisal to be presented, so we have a baseline, and we'll proceed with the sale. Alderman Clem.
Thank you, Sally, for your comments. I wanted to thank Dick Drogas and Ralph and Sue Norman for their work on the first of all, the neighborhood watch meeting and then the town hall meeting. I'd like to thank the mayor and especially Tom Glendenning, and Chief of Police was there. Did a great job presenting the safety things for Freeport, and also Sean Gallagher. It was a huge success. I believe this is a type meeting we need to do more of to get the information out. And Tom and Sean and the mayor are very good at passing that information along. I appreciate all the work that they did in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Yes, Tom did, or Director Glendenning did a great job, second ward, and of many more. Chief, one thing I forgot to, sorry, they both look over. Chief Barkalow, one thing I forgot to mention, and you guys probably already know it because it's been brought up at a couple neighborhood watches in a row, but there have been some issues in some of the 600-700 block of Greenfield with some things happening there. And I did have a couple requests if while the guys are doing patrol, if they could just give a little extra attention to that. Hopefully we can cut down on some of that activity. I forgot to bring it up earlier, so thank you.
Right, we're aware of that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Alderman Ross.
Yes, two things. I want to thank Director Dole and his men for cleaning up the alley behind the old Boys and Girl Club on the east side of Freeport there. They did a really great job. You can now see from one street to the other. It no longer looks like a tunnel. But tonight, it's the second time I realized being an alderman is not a very easy job. You got to go with the punches. Sometimes you don't make the right decision. Not to say that you don't make the right decisions. You make tough decisions. And I'm speaking for myself. If we want to continue to move Freeport forward, I feel that I made the right decision tonight, because that's what we have to continue to do. We don't want to go back in the past, because if we would have done this work back in the past, we wouldn't be in the situation that we is in now. So I am glad we got up off our rear ends and made the right choice. And I know we made the right choice. So we have taught the past administration a lesson tonight, that we have to move Freeport forward. Thank you.
That concludes council business. We now move to item 14, public comment. Is there any public comment?